Hey everyone, what's going on? Diablo 4 Season 2 is right around the corner, the Season of the Blood, and I'm super excited for the start of the season, so I thought I would throw out a Sorcerer build guide for the season. I've really decided that I am a Sorcerer player after playing Diablo 3 Season 29, starting with the Witch Doctor and just immediately going back to the Sorcerer. And because the Diablo 3 Sorcerer build is a Meteor build, I decided why not try a Meteor build in Diablo 4. So that's what we're going to be going over today. So just going to jump right into it, starting with the skills. We're going to end up with Enhanced Firebolt, really just because you have to put 2 points into a basic skill to progress on the skill tree. Just to note, we are using the Maxroll GG D4 planner. Definitely check out Maxroll. They make great content. For our core skills, this is a bit of a unique build. We are not getting any core skills. We're only using it for the passives. So Potent Warding has been updated for Season 2. It used to be like this, where it was 2, 4, and then 6 resistance to all elements, and then 1, 2, 3 additional resistance to that skill's element if you had 1, 2, or 3 points in it. And now it's going to be 3, 6, and 9 resistance to all elements, and 1, 2, and 3 resistance to that skill's element that you cast. So this is a little bit better. And with the change to resistances coming in Season 2, I think this passive ability has some more application, and also that's going to make the Sorcerer a lot better, which is one of the reasons I'm excited to play the Sorcerer again. We're getting Devastation because it's a prerequisite for Elemental Dominance. Your core and mastery skills deal 9% increased damage when cast above 50 mana, so that's just a straight damage bonus for us. For our defensive skills, the Sorcerer unfortunately still has this problem of they can't really get armor, so defenses are super important. And the other problem is that the defensive skills are so freaking good that you can't pass on any of them. So with pretty much every Sorcerer build, you're going to see this. We're getting every single defensive ability in the playbook. Flame Shield, incredible skill. We're going all the way to Shimmering Flame Shield to get that 50% heal. We're getting Teleport because you can't play a Sorcerer without Teleport. It's classic going back to Diablo 2. We're getting Shimmering Teleport for that damage reduction. Ice Armor, we're only going to go to Enhanced Ice Armor on this one. We don't need either of the more advanced abilities, Mystical Ice Armor or Shimmering Ice Armor. So we're just going to get Enhanced Ice Armor with that mana regeneration increased by 25%. Is pretty nice. And Frost Nova, this is probably the best skill in the Sorcerer's arsenal. If you get Mystical Frost Nova, which is the direction we're going, it makes them vulnerable, it freezes them, so you're getting so many damage multipliers off of this one ability. We're putting 5 ranks here because it reduces the cooldown, and we just want 100% uptime on that. If we could, that would be great. Obviously, not going to have 100% uptime, but we want the shortest cooldown that we can get. We're also going to get 3 ranks of Glass Cannon because we want to do more damage, even if it's worth, we still take 9% more damage, but we want to deal that extra. And we're taking 2 ranks of Elemental Attunement, which lucky hit critical strikes have up to a 10% chance to reset the cooldown of your defensive skills. Really nice. We want to be casting these constantly. In the Conjuration skills, we're not taking any Conjuration skills in this build. However, they have made a lot of changes to Conjuration skills, so I may be interested in trying out a Conjuration skill build this season. But we're taking a ton of passes. We're taking Precision Magic 3 ranks to get that lucky hit chance up. 1 rank in Align the Elements because it unlocks the new passives, the passives beyond it. And I'll also note that Align the Elements was changed for Season 2. This damage reduction bonus is now persists for 2 seconds after you take damage. We're taking 3 ranks of Mana Shield. It's an incredible ability. You gain 21% damage reduction for 5 seconds every time you spend 100 mana. And we're getting 1 rank in Protection. Using a cooldown grants 10% of your maximum life as a barrier. We have 4 skills that are a cooldown, and actually 5, which we'll get into, but we have 4 defensive abilities that we want to be casting constantly. So we're going to have this barrier up quite a bit. And then the real damage dealer of the build is Meteor. We're doing 5 ranks into Meteor. We're getting Enhanced Meteor, and we're getting Wizard's Meteor, which is going to immobilize enemies, which is going to give us some damage multipliers through our aspects. We're also getting 3 ranks of Inner Flame so that our Pyromancy skills deal 9% increased damage while you're healthy, and Devouring Blaze to deal 21% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. And then if they are also mobilized, this bonus is increased by 30%. So again, that goes back to this immobilized ability. It's also just better than Mage's Meteor, I think. For our ultimate skill, we're going to go with Inferno. Super good ability. Also, like, probably the coolest animation of any skill in Diablo 4 with that snake. We're just going to get all the ranks because we want it to pull in. This is kind of like the black hole ability from Diablo 3, if you're familiar with that. And Supreme Inferno, when it's active, your pyromancy skills cost no mana, so we can just constantly throw meteors when this is up. We're also going to get a bunch of passes. We're going to get Permafrost to unlock Hoarfrost. You deal 9% increased damage to chilled enemies and 18% increased damage to frozen enemies. That's another one of those multipliers I was talking about with Frost Nova and how good it is. And we're getting Fiery Surge. Killing a burning enemy increases your mana regeneration by 15% for 3 seconds. We just don't want to have mana issues. And for our ultimate key passive, we're getting Esu's Ferocity. Fire critical strike damage is increased by 25% against enemies above 50% life, and fire critical strike chance is increased by 5% against enemies below 50% life. And if you kill an enemy or hit a boss, you get both those bonuses for 3 seconds. Really powerful key passive. So our skill lineup is going to be Inferno, Meteor, Flame Shield, Frost Nova, Ice Armor, Teleport. We're going to put Ice Armor in the enchantment slot, and we're going to put Meteor in the enchantment slot. Before we get into the gear, one thing I'll note about Meteor in general is that in Season 2, Blizzard has buffed it slightly by increasing the radius by 10%, so it's going to be easier to hit enemies, and you're going to hit more enemies when you cast it. For our gear, we're going to get a Harlequin Crest. No, I'm just kidding. I just thought that this was funny. There's probably no chance we ever see a Harlequin Crest on this build. What we're actually going to get is the Aspect of Disobedience. This is kind of mandatory. You need as much defense as you can get. And so this is going to increase your armor by 30%. We're going to get Raiment of the Infinite. This is a unique item, but it is reasonably easy to get. So this is when we teleport, close enemies are going to be pulled to us and they're going to be stunned. So that's going to be a damage multiplier because they're stunned. And we're just going to have everyone close so that we can blow them up with our meteors. For our gloves, we're getting the Conceited Aspect, 25% increased damage while you have a barrier active. And if you remember, we're going to have a barrier every time we use a skill that has a cooldown. For our leggings, we're going to get the Frost Blitz aspect, which Frost Nova gets an additional charge. And remember how good Frost Nova is. And the cooldown is increased per charge. You can get this down to 30%. So overall, it is a decrease in the cooldown, which is all we're after. I like these Flicker Step, which is one of the new unique items for Season 2. So each enemy you evade through reduces your active ultimate cooldown by 4 seconds up to 10 seconds. And Inferno is just such an incredibly powerful ultimate skill that being able to reduce that cooldown, I think, is worth trying these out. For our amulet, we're going to get Aspect of Control, 53% more damage to immobilize, stunned, or frozen enemies, and we're basically doing all 3 of those. So Meteor immobilizes, Frost Nova freezes, and we stun by using our teleport. So this is going to be up pretty much at 100% of the time on our enemies. Aspect of the 3 Curses, increase the critical strike damage of Meteor and Fireball by 40% and double this bonus against healthy targets. So if you're fighting a brand new monster, your Meteor is going to get 40% times critical strike damage. Super nice. And then Prodigy's Ring, aspect of the Prodigy. Using a cooldown restores 25 mana. Again, we have 5 skills with cooldowns. So this is basically our main way of regenerating mana and being able to cast Meteor constantly. For our offhand, we're going to get Elementalist Aspect, Core or Mastery skills, which Meteor is a Mastery skill. Cast at or above 100 mana, gain 40% increased critical strike chance. And then for our main hand, we're going to get Aspect of Retribution. Distant enemies have 8% chance to be stunned for 2 seconds when they hit you, and then it's another damage multiplier for stunned enemies. I didn't fill out the entire Paragon board, but I wanted to kind of give it a start and give you an idea of what we're going for. So the first kind of glyph that we're getting is Adept, which increases the damage of your mastery skills. Mastery skills have a 20% increased area. On the second Paragon board, we're going to go for Searing Heat. Casting Fireball or Meteor increases your critical strike chance by 5% for 5 seconds up to 15%. Now, this is the old way the node worked. This node was changed for Season 2. So the new way it works is your fire skills have their critical strike chance increased by 10% and their direct damage is increased by an amount equal to times 10% of the total amount of your bonus damage with fire up to a maximum of times 30%. So this is going to be a buff to our Meteor damage. And then on the third board, we're going to go to Enchantment Master, but we're not going to really worry about getting to that node. We're just going to use it to get to the glyph. So the other new thing in Season 2 is Vampiric powers. The way the Vampiric powers work is you're going to have some pacts, which is listed here, and then you're going to be able to get 25 total pacts, which I think means you can get 4 major Vampiric powers and like 1 medium power. I'm not going to go into how all of the Vampiric pacts work, but you can take 5 Vampiric pacts, and there's this special thing with the Vampiric powers that's not a power itself, but is this Vampiric curse. So basically when you kill a monster with a Vampiric curse, it like stores their soul, and you can have up to 8 souls stored. That was hard to say. Casting a defensive, macabre, or agility skill will unleash stored souls to attack nearby enemies. And as you know, we have 4 defensive skills, so we're going to be able to trigger this constantly. So the Vampiric powers route that I'm going with is to try to get as much Vampiric curse as possible. So the first ability we're going to get is this Call Familiar. Casting a mastery, which is Meteor, calls a bat ally to attack nearby enemies, dealing 80% physical damage with a 30% chance to stun. And this is really what we're after, this 30% chance to stun. We want monsters crowd controlled all the time. Why not use that? Next, we're going to go for a Cursed Touch. Lucky hit up to a 44% chance to inflict Vampiric curse on enemies. Enemies with the Vampiric curse have a 15% chance to spread it, kind of like rabies. And your accursed souls, which is from the Vampiric curse, deal 200% increased damage. Next, we're going to get Metamorphosis. When you evade, you turn into a cloud of bats, becoming unstoppable for 4 seconds. Enemies along your path take 60% physical damage and are inflicted with the Vampiric curse. And if you remember, we're getting Flicker Step. So every time you evade through, every enemy you evade through, which is going to be supported by this Metamorphosis, is going to reduce the cooldown on our Inferno, which is super nice. Next, we're going to get Sanguine Brace. When you kill an enemy, fortify for 6% of your base life. While you have more fortify than half of your maximum life, you gain 8% critical strike chance. I don't know if this is going to trigger or not, but some of these ones are pretty weak. And the last one we're going to get is Prey on the Weak. You deal 16% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Enemies are vulnerable while affected by a Vampiric curse from your other Vampiric powers. So this is going to be an amazing way to have vulnerable up all the time with this build and not be 100% reliant on Frost Nova. So I think that's going to change the way that this build is played quite a bit. That's going to be it for this build guide. I'm really excited to play Diablo 4 Season 2. I think Blizzard addressed a ton of feedback that the community has had on why Diablo 4 was struggling. Let me know in the comments, are you excited for the new season? What build are you going to play? And if you have any feedback on this build. Thanks for watching.